Louisa Nicola, the only person in the world whose name rhymes. That may not be true, but Louisa Nicola is a name that rhymes. She is a neurophysiologist and billionaire coach. Louisa was a world championship triathlete and raced both nationally and internationally for Australia and competed in London, Beijing and Auckland. After retiring in 2012, Louisa followed her dreams and went to Sydney Medical School and graduated with a particular interest in neurophysiology. Louisa is now the head performance advisor and CEO of Neuroathletics. Neuroathletics' mission is to optimize mental performance and to help educate, train and unlock human performance through science and data with a commitment to your potential.
Gosh, you are the best person that ever says the bio.
Really? Yeah. Well, is it because of the emotion that I bring to it?
It's the emotion. You also said my name right, which is a huge bonus.
How could they get it wrong? How could anyone?
They say Nicola or they say Louise. It's like they just don't see the A.
And I put the emphasis on O. Nicola. Yes. You like that?
I love that.
Okay. Cola, like Coca-Cola. Exactly. That's something do you say that to people?
Kind of, sometimes.
Now, you said you're a billionaire coach. Last time I had you on, this is the second time you've come on the Zaddy Zone.
I know.
Thanks so much.
But this is better because it's in person.
It's in person, exactly. I couldn't smell you last time, but I can this time. It's really good for anyone interested. Somebody asked last time, like, what do you mean she's a billionaire coach? Like no millionaires?
I know. No millionaires. No.
Yeah.
It's
too poor.
That's funny because there was a New York Times article that actually said billionaire coach. And that's because I have a billionaire on Wall Street who, he was public about what he's doing. And he said, and I'm also working with Louisa. She's my brain coach. And so that's how that started. I thought that's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, that is good.
And so I just, dubbed, billionaire brain coach on Wall Street.
For a guy like that, how often does he want to check in with you?
Weekly.
Yeah,
well, I want to check in with him weekly. So the general consensus when I train with somebody one-on-one, it's a 1 hour Zoom fortnightly, and then you've got regular check-ins with the team, but he wants regular check-ins with Louisa.
Good. And then are you talking about how he's feeling? Are you doing tests? Like, what is it usually?
Yeah. First and foremost, it's adherence to the program that I have given him. And that's with everyone. The biggest ways of change is through adherence to a protocol. So with him, it's checking in. But this guy one day he will be like, yes, okay, we're going to talk. I'll be in New York City because that's where he lives. And then we'll talk, and he's in Mexico. And he's all over the shop. So it's just, adherence to the protocol and what have you got on this week and how can we maximize your potential? Yeah.
And what is it? Just give me an example of one thing daily that you've got him doing.
Neuroathletics Protocol. So it is just the ball drills. And I think we've spoken about that, but we can go into more depth.
Yeah, please.
So one of the programs that we put people on, a cognitive performance program, involves a tennis ball, or we've got neuro balls actually, and you just have to throw it to the wall, and it's really testing reaction time, mental strength, mental endurance, and hand-eye coordination. So we've got him doing ball drills at least 10 to 15 minutes a day. Wow.
So a ball drill will be I imagine not just throwing it against a wall, maybe doing one thing with your right hand and throwing and catching.
That's level 3, level 4. We're starting with, just throwing it with the right hand, catching it with the left hand, then standing on one leg, and then doing crazy things. We've even got eye patches.
Oh,
and
cool.
He's got an eye patch, so maybe we'll get an eye patch on him. Wow. He's also got sleep protocols, exercise protocols, nutrition protocols.
Okay, interesting. I love the way you say protocols.
Protocols.
Oh, wait, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
How do you say avocado?
Avocado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
So what I picked up with Holly, I love her. She's an Australian, but she's been living in the US for so long, and her accent, it's merged
I see.
In this way where, and I get it too. Sometimes you forget how to pronounce the letter R, and it's because people say to me, they don't know when I say here.
Yeah.
Australian, here.
Yeah, like water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are you.
Yeah, what do you mean?
So now I have to say here.
Got it.
And it's hard to, so I think that's where her avocado.
Yes. Well, for anyone listening and not knowing what I'm talking about, I stitched a video with Louisa and Holly Baxter, she's a big PT, isn't she?
Yeah.
A really successful woman, and she just had this pronunciation of avocado, which is very Aussie. Like Aussies say no,
yeah,
and avocado.
You know what it really is? Kath and Kim.
It's very Prue and True. It's Prue and True in Kath and Kim. Yes. Anyway, moving on from that, because while I've got you here, you're a billionaire coach. I have to make the most of your time, and I really want to talk about sleep and the best ways that we can optimize our sleep for better brain and better performance. Let's reverse that and kind of talk about what happens to our brain's performance when we don't sleep well.
Okay, so this is I love doing this. I love thinking about what's going to happen. So many things are going to happen if we don't sleep well. First of all, we know that if you're sleeping for 6 hours a night, you're already being detrimental to your brain. First of all, you're not going to be clearing out different toxins in your brain. We've got proteins that are meant to be in our brain, but what happens with these proteins is they get cleared out during sleep. So if they don't get cleared out, they're going to build up and they're going to have a detrimental effect in the long term, meaning that one of these proteins that usually gets cleared out is amyloid beta. Now, this is a protein that lives outside of the neuron, which is a brain cell. And if it doesn't get cleared out, it clumps together, and we don't want this. It's a hallmark to Alzheimer's disease. That's one thing that happens. And when we talk about brain health, and we're going to speak about this, what we're really talking about is vascular health. You can see here, this nerves here. We've got not the nerves, sorry. We've got the blood vessels and the veins, and we can see this on the right side of the brain. The brain is the most vascular, rich organ in the body. If you were to pull apart all of the blood vessels that make up the vascular system in the brain, it would span 400 miles.
Wow.
So that is incredibly large. And we primarily, what we are doing is we are trying to feed the brain through these blood vessels. So if we are not getting enough sleep, we're damaging the smallest little capillaries in the blood. So that's one in the brain. So that's one thing that we're doing as well. But when it comes to cognitive performance, reaction time is decreased, impulse control is decreased, visual acuity is decreased. And one that I really want to point out is our appetite is increased when we are not sleeping well. One night probably won't hurt you. 2 nights probably won't. But the brain is all about consistency. So if you're consistently not sleeping, you're walking your way into a thinner brain.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so that's 6 hours or less.
6 hours or less. But listen, sleep is very individualized. LeBron James needs 12 hours.
Yeah.
You may not need 12 hours, but you need to find what you need, your peak, and you need to stay within that range. So I always, as a general rule, try and get 7.5 to 8 hours a night.
Yeah. And also quality of sleep matters. So for instance, somebody could only have 5 hours to sleep, but if they use that 5 hours to the best of their, if they get 3 hours of deep sleep and then 2 hours of REM, then they're crushing it.
I mean, that's unbelievable to have your entire total sleep time in those stages.
Exactly.
But I understand what you mean.
Yeah, there is a quality of sleep within that time that you can crush.
But also know that we are made up of genes. There's 25,000 genes in the human genome. And that's what we are genetically predisposed to. We can't change those genes. But what happens is we can change the way that they function. It's called an epigenetic change. So lack of sleep, and this is characterized as 6 hours or less, can have an epigenetic change of 3%. So you can change the genes in your body and how they work 3% of your genes. So you can change 711 genes.
By sleeping poorly. Or by sleeping well, I imagine you can optimize. Can you optimize your genes? You
can optimize your genes by sleeping well. But if you don't sleep well, you're down-regulating these genes that are responsible for immunity. Right. So if you don't sleep well, you're probably going to be more prone to sickness. But you're also up-regulating the tumor-producing genes. So lack of sleep over the long term can lead to diseases such as cancer and neurodegenerative diseases.
Wow. Okay. So you're telling me that during sleep, there's this flushing out of these proteins that if they aren't flushed out, can move on and cause Alzheimer's in the future.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's Tell me a little bit about how you personally are sleeping and making sure that optimizing that kind of detoxification process.
So first of all, you have to fall in love with 3 things in your life. You have to fall in love with sleep, exercise, and good nutrition. You have to, because you are not going to adhere to a protocol if you just are not falling in love with it. So you have to fall in love with sleep. So for me, my bedroom is optimized. Oh, it's so amazing. We should do a tour of it. I sleep on a temperature controlled mattress. I have this sleep mask this is not just a generic sleep mask. This is it's molded to my face sleep mask.
Oh.
Yeah. So it takes into consideration my eyelashes.
Oh, wow. No,
Yeah.
What's it? Tell me about this. What's this
So,
sleep mask?
It's even made out of suede.
Oh.
So, and it's puffy around the eye, so it comes out. So my eyelashes are protected, which is for the ladies
really
listening.
Important for you.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
And that's because, it'll be too annoying with it on. But also it molds to my face. So once you wear it for, 2 weeks, it gets the bony structure of your face and it just sits there perfectly. And it's got a little pressure point here.
Okay. And that pressure point is soothing?
Well, it's meant to be soothing. I guess it's just a marketing ploy. But I just wanted to add that in. And it straps up and it fits well. So I have that going on. I have
But
earplugs.
the number one thing that a mask would do, excuse me for jumping in, would be to block out any light.
Yes.
Right?
And that's imperative.
Yeah.
Because any type of light, it doesn't actually matter if it's just a little bit, can send a signal to your brain to say, I'm awake. And actually back to the brain, we've got this little structure here. Can you see it? These little, that is the optic nerve. So that's down here.
Got it.
And that optic nerve actually comes from below the brain where you just saw it and goes into our eyeball. So the eyeball is here and then it comes into the optic nerve, and the optic nerve then travels into the brain and connects the eyeball to the brain. So through that pathway, if light is signaled onto the eyeball, specifically at the bottom of the retina, it says to your brain, it shoots a message saying, hey, Louisa's awake, let's shoot out some cortisol. Now, we only get cortisol when we wake up because that wakes us up and gets us up out of bed. So yes, we want to be blocking light.
Yeah.
I also wear earplugs. I live in New York City in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's generally my sleeping environment.
Okay, perfect. What are you supplementing with for excellent sleep?
So I do supplement. Not a lot of people do, but I'm always maximizing my benefits. First thing I'm having is GABA. I have a racing mind, so I'm having GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. We know about that. I stay very far away from melatonin. However, I will be really honest, I just traveled back from Australia. So I've been taking 2.5 milligrams just to get back on PST time.
Oh, okay.
That's the only time I'll take it, and then I'll take it when I go back to New York.
Yeah.
I also take glycine. Glycine is fantastic for so many other things other than just good sleep. It's really great for collagen synthesis as well, which is great for our bones. So I'm taking glycine. And those two are the ones that I'm taking almost every night. I'm also taking magnesium L-threonate.
Okay, great. Actually, this has sparked my memory. So many people have asked me when, in regards to good sleep, talking about shift workers.
Oh, gosh.
What are we supposed to do about shift workers? I mean, I even read that there's a study about there's an increase in breast cancer among shift workers in Denmark or something.
Well, there you go. That's back to what we said, the epigenetic change.
Right. Yes.
So here's the thing. Nurses as well, and doctors go through this as well, like working long nights during residency. Even just being a doctor, it really has a detrimental effect on your sleeping patterns. But shift workers, my general rule for here is sleep when you can and make it consistent. So the reason why it's so hard is because we have a 24-hour circadian clock. That's really when the sun is rising, and it's dictated by Mother Nature. Sun is rising, our brain knows when the sun is up and when the sun goes down. And there's a lot of powerful things. The sun is like nutrition. We need the different photons that it produces, okay, just for a healthy growing brain and body. A lot of shift workers aren't getting that. But now, living in 2023, First time I've said that. We can now actually mitigate a lot of the effects and kind of mimic that clock. We can do that through a light box. So for myself, I have a 10,000 lux light box. I would have used it on a day like this. This is a very New York day. So this is the same, you know, if we go out into the sun, maybe you're getting 100, 200, even 1,000 lux of light. This is helping us because 10,000 lux of light can set your circadian rhythm.
Got it.
So if you're a shift worker and you have to sleep during the day and then wake up at night and there's no sun, you can be doing that with this light box.
Yeah.
But the best thing you can do is just keep on a consistent schedule.
Got it.
And the hard thing is some people write into me, they're like, but Louisa, I work Monday to Wednesday shift and then the rest of it, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's just, unfortunately, maybe you'll have to sleep deprive yourself one night a week.
Yeah.
Which is not going to break the bank.
Got it. And then this light that you're talking about, is it more, it's not about vitamin D, I imagine.
No.
It's just about making sure that the eye is going through that little thing, telling the brain like, hey, it's daytime.
Yeah, shooting to a specific area in the brain saying release molecules to say we're awake.
Yeah, wow. What about, there is a thing about consistency in sleep, even for people who aren't shift workers, isn't there? Like, so, I've heard various things about this, but if you go to sleep 2 hours later than you usually do, it can completely throw up your blood sugar the next day can throw you out of whack.
Yeah.
So consistency is really necessary for sleep, it seems.
Consistency, because your brain plans for sleep the moment it wakes up. So therefore, you should be planning the following day's sleep the previous night, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you wake up at 10 a.m., then your brain is going to start to settle down at around 9 p.m. And then by the time you really get back into sleep, it might be 10 p.m. again, or it might be 12 p.m. So it's literally, if you wake up at 7 a.m., if you get sunlight in your eyes at 7 a.m., you're going to start to be sleepy at around 7 or 8 p.m. and try and be in bed by 10. So let's talk about what happens with one complete night of sleep deprivation. And there's a wonderful study that was done, and they took the cerebral spinal fluid out of people, like healthy individuals who had one night of sleep deprivation, and they saw an increase in amyloid. And we mentioned that earlier. It's the toxic protein that builds up, and one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. So we know that you're going to have an increase in these toxic molecules and tau. So you need to be flushing them out. It's not going to do anything because you can just go through and flush it out the following day. But if we already know it's there, then if you don't sleep the following night, it's going to still be there and more is going to accumulate. And if you don't sleep the following night, more is going to accumulate.
Yes.
So. Yeah,
this is wild. You know, and the way you're talking reminds me of like what it must be like for people who cannot sleep. It must be incredibly anxious.
Yeah, but there's always a reason why.
Yeah.
Why can't you sleep? One of the biggest reasons for insomnia is stress, because our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, is just going 24/7. That's why some of us supplement with GABA to calm ourselves down. So insomnia, the ones who are waking up are, unless it's pathological, you know, a lot of men over the age of like 70 are waking up at various times to go to the bathroom. But for those of you who are young and you're waking up, you check your anxiety levels, check your stress.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's go into anxiety actually, because we live in a highly anxious times. We've never had more stimulation to our brains than we do now. And actually, I don't even know if that's true now that I say it. Like, we have Instagram and TikTok, but in the 1800s, they had men coming to kill them with swords.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong about that. But I feel like these are anxious times. Everyone feels unsettled. What can we do to settle our brains? And during the day particularly, you talked about taking GABA for nighttime to quieten the mind. What are some practices that we can pick up to help our anxiety?
First of all, we have to figure out where is the anxiety coming from. Often what happens is, and this is why it's really important to pick up on anxiety when it occurs, because left untreated, it can turn into depression and you can get depressive-like symptoms from being so anxious that it's been uncontrolled. So we need to pick up on it. You need to find out where is the anxiety coming from. One of the best things you can do is breathe in that moment and get oxygen to your brain.
Yeah.
Okay. The best way to calm down your nervous system is with a flush of oxygen to the brain. And oxygen says to your brain, hey, we're okay. Because at any given point throughout the day. Your brain is only there to keep you alive. It's just designed for survival. And it's always trying to damage control. It's trying to fix up, okay, I need to be in control. The brain is like, okay, I'm anxious, so I'm going to try and fix that up, but she's not letting me fix it up because she's not breathing properly, because when we're anxious, we actually breathe less. So we're getting less oxygen in. So you need to be breathing. So you've told your brain, I'm okay. And then it's about, you've got to figure out where is the anxiety coming from, because if it's about to happen again, you can stop it. And you can do this. This is a wonderful technique. It's a sports psychology technique, but I use it with a lot of my boys. 100% of my clients are men. So I just want to say that.
Okay.
Unfortunately. I mean, I love that. I would love some women.
Yeah.
Maybe the women are scared of me.
Give her a call, please.
Yes, give me a call. But no, one thing that I like to use is an anchoring technique. So I get a lot of boys on the field or on the court, and they get anxious in a moment, like they're going to stuff something up. So I get them to give themselves a stimulus. Some of them click, some of them hit their leg, and then they have to anchor their thought and think about something happy. So we've already got that happy moment in there already. We've already figured it out. So all they have to do when they get anxious is they have to click and anchor their thought. 20 years ago, it used to be this elastic band method. They'd get boys to wear it, sports athletes to wear elastic bands and just flick themselves every time they had a negative thought. And that stimulus would be there to just shock them and say, stop thinking about it. But now we're getting a bit smarter, and we're like, how about we anchor the thought? Yes,
anchor it as in they didn't used to bring it back to something happy.
No.
Okay, yeah, this is interesting. I'd love to know how to come up with a happy thought. How do you do that?
Well, for you, it might be, I just saw your wife, and you've got a beautiful kid. I only saw two. I only saw one.
Yeah, sleepless. I'll talk about that.
Yeah, and so it could be just a photo of you guys in your head on a beach. Whatever's your happy place. Everyone has something different.
Okay, good. Yeah, and do you find that they have to switch often? Because I could almost think that happy thought could lose its potency after some time. Like you kind of like need to be refreshing it.
You can refresh it, yeah. I mean, some of my boys go through divorces. They're like, that's not my happy photo anymore.
Right.
So and the reason why that is because when you are at peace and still with that visualization of that happy place, you breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, you just let go. It's like vasodilation.
Yeah. Got it. So you're kind of thinking whenever a negative thought comes into the head, or a doubtful thought, or like you're getting anxiety, you're like, oh, thinking about things too much. A little flick to the leg.
Yeah.
Bam, happy place.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, bam, happy place. Like an anchor. You've just turned it around. But also you've got to also acknowledge that it was there. Like, okay, this makes me anxious. And that becomes smart. Like, that's why I'm trying to build intelligent athletes. Like, I'm not going to be on the court with you to smack you in the face.
Yes.
So you have to smack yourself in the face.
Yes.
And do you know how much strength and cognitive capacity it takes to turn yourself off? We love delving into, I'm sure you've had a negative thought, and you just love delving into it, and it's great because it's easy. What's hard is having the mental strength to turn it off.
Yes. I've been having a lot of issues with this lately because I've found that over the holidays particularly, my negative self-talk just was like off the charts. And I was just noticing the way that I was talking about myself. It started to affect the way that I would talk about myself to other people. And I noticed, wow, that is so negative what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it makes them think less of you too.
Yeah.
You can kind of see them hearing you speak negatively of yourself and them thinking then negatively of you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to become aware of this. So I started writing it out this morning. And I think that's what you're saying is the first step, is becoming aware of it first and going, boom, there it is. There's that negative self-talk, or there's that anxiety.
Yep.
Is becoming aware of it first, and then you can choose to do something about it.
Yeah, and the choice is all yours. You have a choice. So, for example, I unfortunately got rid of 3 friends last year, and it was really hurtful, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not in my 20s anymore. Like when you're in your 30s, your friends are really close. And I had this one friend who, she's very negative. She's in a terrible relationship, and it's been 4 years of just negative and it's just constant, and it started to really infiltrate in me, and I was getting mad, and I'm like, why am I getting mad and producing all this inflammation in my body for no reason? And so yeah, you have to make the choice to cut the negativity at the source. So that's a harsh example, but that's how far I go to really keep my head in a clean space, because I got to tell you, it's very hard just being in a normal living environment these days.
Yes, it's hard to be taking care of yourself and then be taking care of somebody who's not taking care of themselves for like 4 years.
Yeah.
It's like, how much longer are we going to be doing this? That you won't take care of yourself, and how long, and this is what people don't understand about mental health. Your mental health affects everybody around you. You know, there's these, I saw this incredible video once of this guy at a Jordan Peterson concert, and he gets up at the end and he asks like, I want to kill myself. Okay. Tell me what I should do. Tell me why I shouldn't. And Jordan Peterson gave an incredible answer. One of the things that he said was, you cannot imagine the way that you affect hundreds of people around you, and that your loss would affect them so deeply beyond your comprehension. You think that it's just you going. No, it's like a crushing loss for so many people around you. So it's like your life is not your own. Essentially, this person, your friend who was going through all this stuff, she's like, oh, it's my anxiety. It's my problem. It's really crushing me. It's like, it's crushing all of us.
Yeah.
It's crushing all of us watching you go through it.
Yeah. You just reminded me of an analogy that I like to tell everyone, and it is your life is only as good as how well your brain is functioning. Because every thought you have, every motion you produce, every action you produce, everything you are is a result of how well your brain is functioning. So we have something called cognitive capacity or cognitive reserve or cognitive load, whatever you want to call it. So if it is at its fullest, at its peak, you will be strong enough to dig deep somewhere in your conscious mind or in your unconscious mind, wherever it is, to dig deep, to think to yourself, what I'm about to put on this other person is negative, maybe I shouldn't. But if you don't have a well-performing brain, which is the result of sleep deprivation, lack of proper nutrition, lack of hydration, your brain isn't going to be there to help you survive and thrive. It's going to be in damage control mode. And I tweeted out this morning, your brain is either in damage control or thrive mode. Yeah. So most of us, 99% of us walking around, are in damage control. Right now, we are in damage control. Yeah,
so let's talk about, so we've talked about anxiety and ways in which we can possibly fight it. Let's talk about things that, you know, really inhibit our brains, get in the way of them, can even exacerbate our anxiety. Let's talk about alcohol. Because personally, I know this, I went and saw Dr. Amen. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
I went and got a brain
Daniel
scan.
Amen?
Yes, Daniel Amen. I think he says Amen. I call him Amen. He gave me a brain scan, and then I went over it with him, and he goes, you know, so what's going on with you? And I'm like, well, I treat my body like it's an amusement park and a temple. I do both. I go like 6 days a week. It's perfection, you know, close to it. And then that one day of the week, I will go and I'll drink, like I can drink 20 drinks in a night.
Okay.
Right? Now I don't do that anymore.
Okay, good.
This is for the last, maybe for the last 8 months. Kind of joined Cara being pregnant and was like, I'm not going to partake like that. Yeah. And have turned a few different things around. And he was like, that is what you need to do. Like you need to stop doing this to yourself. And I really love having a few beers and a few too many. But what is it doing to us? Like, because I don't think we think about this. It's just the most accepted drug that there is out there other than caffeine. But. Yeah.
It's so funny that you said this because moderate drinking is considered one drink a day.
Right.
That's actually, like, when we talk about this scientific literature, it says 1 drink a day for women and 2 for men. So let's say that moderate drinking is between 7 to 14 drinks per week. Now, the study that I'm about to quote was based on moderate drinkers because somebody had to do the science on what detrimental effects does alcohol consumption have on the brain, because most of the studies were done on chronic. That's like 50 drinks a week.
Right.
So then they did this moderate study, which was 7. And you can have either 7 is made up of 7 in one day or 3 in one day and 4 another. So it's just 7 drinks in a week. What they found was that it decreases the gray matter of your brain. That's the first thing it does. Now, the gray matter, if you're watching on YouTube, it's on the outside. It's the cortex, and that houses the cell bodies of the neuron. But inside, we've got these myelinated neurons. So the axons of these neurons are like highways and projections that go from the cell body into different structures of the brain and into other cell bodies. So, and they're myelinated and they're white. That's why we call it white matter. They end up deteriorating. So when the white matter deteriorates, we get slowing of cognitive processes. Cognitive processes are thinking, information processing speed, reaction time, the focus. Focus is the number one thing that goes. So you're literally just tearing your little brain cells into pieces.
Wow.
Now, let's just look at the brain once again. The brain is made up of 87 billion neurons. 87 billion. Okay? Each neuron has between 15,000 and 30,000 connections. Isn't that crazy? So someone who's really high performing may have 30,000 connections.
Right.
Someone who's not as well may have 15,000. So with every drink that you're having, you're deteriorating the connections between these brain cells. Those highways that are delivering information at the speed of light.
Yeah.
It's really detrimental. And not just that. Let's talk on more of a physical perspective. We know that it eats away at your muscle. So that should be, another thing. Also, it's a depressant. So ethanol, active ingredient in alcohol, is a sedative. Just like the same as, when you go into surgery and they give you propofol, that's a sedative, obviously on a larger scale, but it sedates you. Alcohol is a sedative. It's a depressant. So it is sedating you and really lowering your inhibitions. So we have inhibition control in our brain. It stops us. We've got this system called the go, no-go system. And we train our athletes on this because you lose it as you get older. But we know when we're young, we learn it through, we touched a hot plate. Oh, so therefore we know if there's a hot, we do this. It's a go, no-go system.
Yeah.
And we stop practicing it as we get older. But we know now. So if let's just say for argument's sake, we were younger and I found you attractive and I liked you, maybe I'm telling myself, don't do that because of all these fears that might happen.
Yes.
But if I drink, it's lowering my inhibitions. Therefore, I'm more than happy to walk up to you and say, I think you're hot. So this is why people do things when they're drinking and when they're drunk. And this is why violence happens, because you don't have the control to not fight somebody or not punch somebody.
Yeah, Australians in particular.
Sorry?
Australians in particular.
Yeah, well, we know that the king hit. I mean, that was
right.
born in Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that we culturally know how to drink and handle it like other countries do. Like Europe, they're drinking early. You can get it at 7-Eleven. You can walk down the street and have a beer. Yeah. In Australia, they're like, we have to fix this because people are
and I don't know what it is. Yeah, because I live in New York and I don't see people going to the lengths that they do in Australia. And for everybody listening, in Australia, they now measure it. You can't even get shots. In Australia.
Right, yeah. Wow.
Like we are so controlled in that way that the government's like, no shots.
Yeah, no shots. Yeah. And I mean, I'm showing my age here, but like they suck. Like I don't even know why we would want shots anyway. They're a rare.
Yeah.
I don't
have shots.
I drank with somebody young a couple of months ago. I forget when, and they're like, "Let's get shots." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like that's a thing.
Yeah. And look, I don't drink. I will have a glass of wine occasionally. I don't know whether it's the fact that I just don't drink, and now if I do have a drink, it doesn't sit well with me.
Yep, you know too much.
I know too much, but you know what it is? It's a cultural thing because then you have to answer questions. Oh, why aren't you drinking?
Yes.
People ask, especially females, you're pregnant. It's like, no.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, what's happening? Were you in AA? Like so many questions arise just from, no, I just like to be healthy.
Yes, and it's the only drug that if you don't do it, people start asking you questions.
Yeah.
And everyone assumes usually like, okay, as a female, yeah, you could be pregnant, but also like, oh, has something gone wrong?
Something's happening.
Were you a rat bag when you used to get drunk? Like, were you a drunk? Were you in AA? Or
they take it to the next level.
Yeah, instead of like, I'm just going to take care of myself. And yeah, I think that's really interesting. I am inspired and have been feeling amazing not having so many drinks. I did have 6 on Saturday night.
Wow.
But I was celebrating. That's a rarity. But it really is a rarity in the last 10 months. I'm looking at him because I told him about how many martinis I had.
Oh, you were on the martinis. Okay.
I had 2 dirty martinis.
Just for the record, I spoke about, there was another LA podcast that I was on last week, and she said, okay, so out of all of the alcohols, which one is the worst? I said, but
right.
Everyone keeps coming up with, like, please tell us some good news. And I'm like, but there's no good news.
Yes.
Then David Sinclair, longevity expert, went out and told the world about resveratrol. And what people are failing to really recognize is that in order to get the dosage responsible for these longevity benefits comes from 1,000, or I know it's over 100, maybe it's 1,000 glasses of wine.
Yeah.
So it's just silly.
Yeah, right.
So you're not getting any benefit other than if you do have 1 glass of wine a week, then that's not going to hurt you.
Of course, yeah.
And you may get the benefits of enjoying it. So for me, my father he loves red wine, and he bought me a beautiful bottle, and it was my birthday in December. And of course I would do that with my parents. I'm like, yeah. And I had 2 glasses and I just called it quits. But that was, with my dad.
Right, exactly. What's your birthday?
16th of December.
19th.
What?
Saggies, huh?
We're both Saggies.
Yeah, there you go.
We're not the same. We're not born the same year, though.
No,
I just want to make that
I'm
real
36.
clear. Yeah.
How old are you? I'm allowed to ask?
How old do
32.
I look? Do I look 32? I thought I looked 28.
You could be 28 too.
Okay, I am 32.
Oh, but do you know how hard it is to tell with women nowadays? It's nearly impossible. I honestly don't know the difference between like 16 to 30. It's like, what? I have no idea.
It's okay. I'm going to go see the plastic surgeon next week and say, listen, I look 32. I need to look at least 28.
Stop. So, and also, you're in LA. If you want to go and see the surgeon, I know a good one, actually. Let's talk about, you wrote to me, I wanted to ask you about saturated fat, and then you wrote that as a suggested idea because I want to talk about saturated fat because I've always been under the impression that saturated fat and cholesterol are necessary for brain health. Okay. But you want to talk about saturated fat as it being deleterious to us?
So, okay, all right, and I'll be clear about this because I know that there's going to be the nutrition people on Instagram just need to chill.
I know. We won't post this bit then.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Definitely post it. So what I meant by that is, first of all, cholesterol. And I love that you said good for the brain. No. Cholesterol actually can't pass through the blood-brain barrier. The molecule itself is big. It can't go through there. What I think you're referring to when you're thinking about fat is the brain is predominantly made of fat and water, and the fat is DHA, which comes from omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, DHA. So that's the type of fat that we're talking about there. So cholesterol, no. But when I was talking about saturated fat, I'm talking about the dose makes the poison. And I'm coming from a vascular perspective. Now, what happens is if we have any type of clogging in an artery, if we think about cardiovascular disease and we think about clogged arteries, okay, we immediately think of what? Heart attack. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We can get a clogged artery in our somewhere in our blood, which could have a lung attack, but that is called a pulmonary embolism. Okay. Okay. But we can also have a brain attack, which is a stroke. Right. So all of them are something building up in these arteries, and they are plaques or atheromas. So they build up and then they get thinning of the blood vessel, and then obviously blood can't pass through there. Yeah. If we are having too much saturated fat, and I'm talking about going over the limit, then what happens is, so our cells are there, and there's obviously saturated fat that can go and infiltrate that, and it's fine. And the cell is like, that's okay, I can oxidize and get rid of it. But when it's full, it's like a club. Okay, the bouncer at the door says, hey, saturated fat, you can't come in. So the guy out the door, he's like, where do I go? So I'll just lodge here. I just lodge on the side because it's warm here, it's great, and that is in your blood vessel. And then over time, if there's nowhere for this guy to go and all of his friends, they just lodge there and become atheromas. And then this ends up in a plaque, which ends up in a infarct or stroke.
An infarct?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, cerebral infarct.
I love it.
Yeah.
He's got an infarct.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's what I meant with the saturated fat consumption. So I'll be really clear. The dose makes the poison.
Right. And you got to eat a lot of saturated fat, I mean, in order for that to happen, I imagine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and then
so just eating like red meat. I love red meat.
Me too.
It's full of saturated fat, but
Yes.
if you're eating 5 tomahawks a day,
right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And there are also, there are leaner cuts of red meat that aren't so fatty. You know, there are filet mignons, super low fat.
Yeah.
And then there are also things that you can do in order to inhibit the way that saturated fat works in the body. I know you went and saw Maxi Lugavere today. So
we touched on saturated fats a lot.
You touched on saturated fat. Did you talk about, what did I see him post? Psyllium husk.
Oh, he
reduces reduces cholesterol levels, I believe.
Can help the clearance. And I don't know too much about that, but I'm guessing it's because of it lodges there and then gets cleared out.
Yeah. Okay, that's super interesting. So I guess that would go back to fiber intake.
Yeah.
And making sure that you eat fiber with your cholesterol.
And well, yes, but this is why the plant food people, the vegans, love them, but also they need to chill because they come attack and say you should just not have any saturated fat.
Right.
But it's hard to argue. And like a lot of the evidence that shows that you just need nice highways. Your blood vessels are just highways. You just want nice highways. You can achieve that by just sticking to the limit.
Right, exactly. So they're saying no saturated fat, and you're saying it's okay to have some.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that that's fair. But most saturated fat is in animal sources. Are there plant sources of high saturated fat?
Not to my knowledge. I'm not a nutrition expert.
Right.
But yeah, it mostly comes. That's why it's demonized.
Right.
Because it comes from animals.
There's a lot of play nowadays for creatine.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Love creatine.
Let's talk about. A lot of people are worried to talk about it whenever I post about it. People are like, isn't it bad for your kidneys? Isn't it bad for you?
Yeah, I know. Again, dose makes the poison. If you best effective dose would be having 5 grams a day.
Right.
Now, and that's just generally, that's if you just go and buy any scoop, that's what it's already in. And that's what I'm having.
Yep.
We used to talk about creatine in the bodybuilding space, something that is great to help you, gain more muscle mass. And while that's well and truly true, we know now the implications of having decreased creatine monohydrate and how this can show up in Parkinson's disease patients and how it can show up in neurodegenerative disease patients. So we now know that the brain also needs creatine for energy production.
Yeah.
I won't go into the chemistry of it, but it involves this ATP cycle and so we need it. But as we age, we have a decrease in it. And by the way, you said you're 36 and I said to you, everything goes downhill at age 30. And it does. Talking from a brain perspective, your brain starts to atrophy at the age of 30. Atrophy, decrease in cell size. So we start to lose neurons. So therefore, we start to have less energy production. So we should be supplementing, I believe, in my opinion, with creatine. It's implicated in a beneficial way in stroke patients, in Alzheimer's disease patients, in depressive patients.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. And I always say if I had to pick 2 things to supplement with, it would be EPA, DHA, and creatine.
Wow.
I've just started getting my dad on it. He had a right parietal lobe infarct or a stroke in his parietal lobe in 2019, and it's terrible what it does. So I've seen what happens to the vasculature of the brain if you don't take care of it, but we're now supplementing him with that 5 grams a day.
Great.
Now I think where the fearing comes from is misinformation.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything taken at high dose can be poisonous. Ibuprofen, you can give patients in the ER like a lot of it. I'm talking in the thousands. Yeah. And nothing will happen. But people think, oh my God, if I take ibuprofen, it's going to affect my kidneys. It's not. But taking a lot of it may affect your kidneys. And then there's this whole bloating effect. Ladies, if you're going to be taking creatine, just take 2 or 3 a day, 2 or 3 grams a day. Okay. You don't have to take 5. Just start and see how you go.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of where the idea that women in particular are always asking about creatine, saying, no, we shouldn't take it because we don't want to get bulky. And that the idea is that it's a bodybuilding thing, but it's also fantastic for you. And yes, it does fill the muscles with with water and helps it recover. So that's part of why it's good. But also I think that, just generally speaking, women need to get over this fear of getting big or getting muscular. It's like, try.
Yeah, I don't understand where this myth is coming from.
Yeah.
So to really gain muscle, and you can probably talk to Holly about this, it takes a lot of effort. If you see her arms, and I'm like, how'd you get those arms? It's like she's working out a ton.
Yes.
She's been working out for 20 or so years.
Yes.
And she's eating, actually, I think she's eating 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Wow, that's a lot, yeah.
That's a lot. I'm having around 1.8.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's even hard for me to...
1.8, so
I'm 74 kilos.
Okay, yeah. So she'd be around 80.
I would never guess a woman's weight.
Okay,
no.
yes. Apparently it's Rd2. You can't ask people their age, can't ask them their body weight. But that's just a crazy amount of protein. But for somebody as active as that and active as yourself, it's the same.
But she also lifts, when I say heavy, I'm talking like she's lifting a heavy load. How many women are doing that?
Yeah.
I don't see them. I'm seeing most women at the gym. I'm sorry, ladies. I'm seeing you with these two I was going to say milligram, 2 kilo dumbbells.
Yeah.
What is that doing?
Yeah, it is around this fear. It's this kind of like it's the 90s idea of what a good body was is still around. This Elle Macpherson or stick thin like model thing is still around. But I must say, in the last 10 years, I see so many more women in the weight section of a gym lifting heavy and really like. And when I say this, I really mean it. Try and eat more. And lift more.
Yeah.
See what happens. Like, you're scared of being bulky. Oh, yeah. Have you ever been bulky?
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
I
swear to God, you'll enjoy the results. Like, you'll actually look in the mirror and go, damn. Okay.
Yeah. I tried it.
Yeah.
It didn't get bulky.
Okay.
Yeah. But I got lean and it was great.
So you liked it?
Oh, I loved it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. It didn't get bulky. And I tried real hard.
Yeah. Let's talk about fish oil, because I know you love it.
Yeah. You can
creatine and fish oil.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you talk creatine and fish oil are the number one supplements you would recommend for somebody. Let's talk about what happens when somebody is low in omega-3s in their body.
Yeah. Everything goes to shit.
Wow.
So first of all, we want to do anything we can to lower our inflammation, right? Because we're not just, we're not being monks all day.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of inflammatory biomarkers that are getting circulated around our system. Omega-3 fatty acids help lower those. So that's one good thing. So if you're not having those, then maybe you'll have an increase in cortisol and other inflammatory biomarkers. But another thing that happens is, how I said we've got 87 billion neurons, cells? We've got trillions. Don't quote me, maybe 30 trillion cells in the body.
Right.
Now, in order for these cells to move around, they need cell membrane, which is the outer layer of the cell. They need cell membrane fluidity. They need to be moving around nice and fluid. Okay. And if they're not doing that, they kind of like get gluggy and just sit there and not move properly. So omega-3 fatty acids, being fats, helps penetrate that and get them to move. So it helps with cell membrane fluidity. Last but not least, we can't ignore the effects on the brain. Like I said, if your brain is made of DHA, why not feed it DHA?
Yes.
Like, that's what it's made of. Structurally, we know that having EPA DHA, by the way, omega-3 fatty acids from fish is made up of 3 parts: EPA, DHA, and ALA. Now, ALA is the source that you get from plants. Now, EPA and DHA, you'll get it from fatty fish, mackerel, salmon, etc. We know that when it actually goes into the brain, it can have a wonderful effect at ameliorating toxic proteins. Again, you want to get rid of those because you end up in getting these neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah, wow.
So it can have an effect on lowering and clearing out amyloid beta.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned before about red meat or cholesterol, that cholesterol does not cross the blood-brain barrier. Yeah. Does EPA, DHA?
EPA, DHA.
EPA, DHA.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Especially when the DHA is phosphorylated, but we don't need to go into that. But we do know that these can cross the blood-brain barrier and have an effect structurally on our brain. Now, in terms of dosages, 4 grams a day. So 2 grams in the morning, I like to say, and 2 grams at night. Yeah.
Amazing. Momentous.
Yes. Go Momentous.
Code Zaddy.
There you go.
Or code, Louise.
Yeah.
Use it.
And just use the codes. But it's not even about that. It is feeding the brain what it's meant to be fed.
Yeah,
and so EPA, you can't go wrong with it.
Well, actually, no, vegans, often commented on something to do with this. Actually, there was this that we talked about before and asked about, are there vegan sources of DHA? And the answer is no, but your body can make it. Is that correct?
No, well, that's the algae. That's the, Oh, sorry. There, you can't really get. You can from, sorry, you're making me think it's ALA. Yeah.
You can get ALA from plant sources. So.
From flaxseed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From different types of nuts and chia seeds. I think chia seeds would be the most density of ALA.
And then does ALA, like, how do they get DHA then? Does ALA make DHA?
It actually converts, and I'm really happy that you asked that. It converts into EPA DHA. But here's the thing. In order for it to do that, you lose a lot of it. So to get the effects of the EPA and the 4 grams that I just mentioned, you need a lot of ALA.
Got it.
Which is why I advocate against it. And unless you're allergic to shellfish or allergic to seafood, and try and supplement with is that wrong of me?
No, I think that's great.
I don't want
it's
anyone
great
to
advice.
attack
I
me.
agree. I'm with you. What about while we're on fats? What do you think of MCTs?
I'm not a fan. I mean, we've we used to think that coconut oil, which is saturated fat,
right,
was good for our brains, but it's not. It's just saturated fat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But do you see how you can increase the amount of saturated fat when you just don't know what you're consuming?
Right.
Like, I never knew this 10 years ago when I was rubbing like coconut oil on me and going to the beach,
Yeah.
Sitting in
I'd
Bondi.
have a spoonful of coconut oil sometimes.
And just have it because it's good for the brain. It's like, not really.
Okay, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Riddle me this. What's something that people can do at home exercise-wise?
Oh, yeah.
Give us a few of these, the Neuroathletics tips. Let's just say one little tidbit of information, like can you bounce a ball on one leg type thing? Can you give me something like that?
Okay, stand 1 meter away from the wall.
Uh-huh.
Okay, get the ball in the right hand,
Uh-huh.
overhand grip.
Okay.
Okay, and then stand on your left leg.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you understand what's happening? You've got this cross-sectional thing happening,
Got
contralateral.
It. Yeah, that's smart.
You want to throw the ball to the wall for 2 minutes. And you can't put your leg down.
Got it.
To save yourself, and you have to catch it the entire time.
Okay, now, and that's on the full?
Yeah, on the full. Yeah, do.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Now, if you can't do that, like practice.
Yeah, practice every day and switch hands and switch legs.
Yep.
And this is going to help with so many different things, and it's fun. You're gamifying the system. So
Yeah.
just remember, as we age, what happens is we stop engaging in different things, and the brain loves variety. In fact, one of the detrimental things that happen when people retire is they stop engaging in various activities. They've retired, so they don't need to think anymore because they're not at the. So they lose different areas of their brain. Well, not lose different areas. They lose the performance of different areas of their brain.
Yeah.
So getting this done, even in your 60s, 70s and above, hopefully some people in their 80s listening to this, they can do that.
Well, there is something about like left hand, right foot exercise, like you were saying. And what is that? It's like across the body. Can you explain that?
The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body.
Okay.
And the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So, for example, my father, who had a right parietal lobe, which is here, parietal lobe down here, okay? The temporal lobe is here behind the ears, but the parietal lobe is there, and because of that, he now has difficulty from the knee down. He's lost sensation, but he's also finding it difficult to move, and so it's interesting what happens. So every part of the brain is responsible for something different. Okay, every part of it. So if you kill off a few of the neurons in that part of the brain, then it's going to kill off whatever it's responsible for.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we want to keep practicing it. And just remember, the brain is like a muscle. It's use it or lose it. So if you do not train it, every part of it, you'll start to lose it.
Yeah, amazing.
Especially after the age of 30.
Right. Yeah, everything
downhill.
Downhill from there, apparently. I'm 36. Damn. Collagen goes down too. Yeah,
and just remember where our brain is not meant to survive past the age of 40. It's actually not meant to survive past reproduction.
Right.
So we're doing something crazy now. So you better be careful.
Right, and prostates, I hear, they don't survive well at all.
Yeah, I actually have seen. It's funny. I had to do a 2-week rotation in Sydney. I had to see an 87-year-old prostate.
Oh,
yeah,
like of a living person.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah. So
That
they
was
had
fun.
to open it up and you had to look
yeah,
at it.
it was. I won't even go into what it was, but that was a shock to me.
Yeah, to look at the prostate.
Yeah, I said, okay.
Well, apparently, like rubbing the prostate and stimulating is good for the prostate. I heard a gay guy tell me this.
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to have sex with me. It's not confirmed.
Well, I didn't do that.
Have sex with anal.
I didn't.
But you don't have a prostate.
with the gentleman, I meant.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
The patient. I didn't do that there.
No, but I'm just for all the ladies out there. Louisa is a big advocate for fingering your boyfriend.
I heard actually. Yeah, I've
heard this.
I've heard it.
Yep.
That's a very pleasurable thing. I get and men aren't shy to ask about it either.
Aren't shy to ask for it.
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, well, because I guess it is what they want. So that's good. We should be open to that. But it is amazing that men have this G-spot that is never stimulated for entire lifetimes.
Really?
That
I don't know.
We never, I've never been fingered. Like, I've never been.
I don't know what boys do. I don't know. I grew up with 2 boys, my brothers.
Right.
I don't know what they
But
go
I'm
up
saying
to in
I'm
their rooms.
glad that culturally.
Oh, culturally. Okay.
This is happening. And I mean, I'm intrigued, but still wary. But I think it's cool, that men are waking up and going, would you mind?
I saw this thing actually today, which, isn't it crazy to think that you could create a baby? Women don't have to orgasm, but men do.
Right.
It really makes me not like
it would
you
be
guys
ideal if you needed to orgasm too.
to create
so
a baby. Yeah.
So that every,
Where's the fairness?
Yeah, it does. It's not fair, isn't
Yeah.
it, within the creation?
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll
Anyway,
talk to
we
God
got
about
off
that.
topic then.
That's okay. Louisa, how can we find you, follow you, support you?
Which I advocate for everybody to do.
Well, yeah, you do.
Come to Instagram. I'm very active on there. Louisa Nicola. And excitingly, if you are listening from Australia, we are hosting a 2-day course, a Neuroathletics course on the 1st of April in Sydney.
Oh,
so
great.
I'll post a lot of details about that too.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining on the Zaddy Zone.
Thank you.